I gifted my family a generic DNA test on Christmas that destroyed everything. I-36F, my parents, 81M, and 78F, have always been the rocks of our family. Growing up, we rarely argued or fought, and we cherished every moment spent together. Family traditions were the glue that held us together, especially during the holidays. Christmas was a time of joy, laughter, and love, with everyone gathered under one roof, sharing memories and creating new ones. This year, I wanted to give a unique and fun gift to everyone for Christmas. I spent weeks thinking of ideas and finally decided on a simple DNA test for all of us. I thought it would be fascinating to learn more about our ancestry and perhaps uncover some hidden secrets in our family tree. I thought it would be a great way to connect and bring us even closer together. On Christmas morning, we followed our usual tradition of opening gifts, starting with the oldest and ending with the youngest. When it was my turn, I could barely contain my excitement. I announced that my gift was a DNA test for the family tree. As I handed out the kits, I noticed my mother's face turning pale. She swayed slightly and then fainted, collapsing onto the floor. We rushed to her side, but at first, we didn't think much of it. My mother had a history of fainting when stressed, and we assumed it was just a reaction to the surprise. After making sure Mom was okay, we tried to enjoy the rest of our Christmas celebration. My mom's sudden fainting spell worried us, and her unusual reaction to the DNA test gift left us all uneasy. The festive mood was ruined, but we pushed through, determined to make the best of it. A few days later, we gathered again to do the tests. My mother was clearly nervous and refused to participate. She insisted that the tests weren't healthy, claiming they contained chemicals that could cause cancer or other diseases. We tried to reassure her, explaining that the tests were safe and widely used. But her upset feelings only grew, and she became more and more annoyed and angry. It was unlike anything we had seen before. We assumed she was just overly worried and decided to give her some space. Despite her objections, my siblings and I went ahead with the tests. We sent off our samples and waited anxiously for the results. When the results finally came in, they shattered our world. Not only was our dad not our biological father, but each of us had a different father. 6 children, same mother, different fathers. We were stunned. Questions swirled in our minds, and the only people who could answer them were our parents. We repeated the test to be sure, and the results were the same. There was no denying the truth. We decided to confront our parents together. We gathered in the living room, the air thick with tension. My dad sat in his favorite armchair, looking puzzled and concerned. My mother stood by the window, her back to us. "Mom, Dad, we need to talk," I began, my voice trembling. "We got the results from the DNA tests. They're not what we expected." My dad frowned. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath. "Dad, according to the tests, you're not our biological father. And each of us has a different father." The room fell silent. My dad's face paled, and he shook his head. "That can't be right. The tests must be wrong." "We did the tests twice," I said gently. "The results were the same both times." My dad buried his face in his hands, and tears streamed down his cheeks. My mother turned to face us, her face showed a mix of fear and sadness. She fainted once more, and we had to rush her to the hospital. My dad remained in his chair, paralyzed with shock. A few hours later, we returned home. My mother cried the entire way back, her crying filled the car. When we arrived, my brother informed us that my dad had gone to his room and hadn't come out. We stood outside his door, listening to him quietly cry. "Dad, please come out," my sister pleaded. "We need to talk." There was a long silence, and then my dad's voice was weak and broken. "Is it true?" he asked my mother. "Just tell me the truth. Yes or no?" My mother hesitated, then nodded, tears running down her face. "Yes," she whispered. "It's true." My dad collapsed, holding his chest. He had a heart attack. We called an ambulance, but it was too late. He passed away before we could reach the hospital. In the days that followed, we tried to come to terms with our new reality. None of us blamed our mother openly, knowing it would only cause more pain. We buried our father in a sad ceremony full of grief and questions. The guilt and stress proved to be too much for my mother. She passed away within 15 days of my father's death, her heart broken by the weight of her secrets and the loss of her husband. In the aftermath, our once joyful family was shattered. We siblings tried to support each other, but the pain and confusion were overwhelming. We gathered often to talk about our parents, sharing memories of happier times. We wanted to ask our mother why she did what she did, but we knew it wouldn't change anything. Instead, we chose to remember the love and joy they had given us throughout our lives. As the weeks turned into months, we slowly began to rebuild our lives. Losing both our parents left a gap that could never be filled, but we leaned on each other for strength. Our family gatherings were no longer the same, and their absence constantly reminded us of the tragedy we had faced. I took it upon myself to sort through our family history, trying to piece together the puzzle of our ancestry. I found letters and old photos that hinted at my mother's past, showing a complicated and difficult history she had kept hidden. It was clear she had her own problems, and although her actions hurt us, they might have been caused by things we'll never fully understand. In the end, we decided to forgive her. Holding on to anger and resentment would only cause us more pain. We kept our parents' memories alive by sharing stories of their kindness and love with future generations. Our family was forever changed, but the bonds we had remained strong. I'm sharing this story to find some relief and to hope that others can learn from it. May our parents rest in peace. Please be respectful towards my mother. Even though she made mistakes, she spent years dealing with the consequences. Through this experience, I've learned how important it is to have compassion and understanding. Life can be full of unexpected challenges, and sometimes the people we love most can hurt us deeply. But in those painful moments, we find our true strength, and through forgiveness, we start to heal. Let our story remind you that family is not just about blood but about the love and support we give each other. Though our parents are no longer with us, their legacy lives on in the hearts of their children.